I think this would be something good in order to compensate it. English-speaking Muslims, which is, yes, they are not a small number.
Don't you think that people really need to establish the fact that they need to learn from, you know, throughout their lives? Because you mentioned about the Imam there giving people lessons over various different aspects of Islam. But I think there's a matter of educating the people to realise that they need to be educated. How do you think we've managed to do that?
We have to motivate them.
Exactly, yeah, to get them to attend the courses so they can be educated. It seems to be a little breakdown in that when that we have, alhamdulillah, so many people trying to make such striving to provide this education, yet you'll find one of the breakdowns is that people aren't forthcoming in having that full attendance.
But I think this is a result of the role of the mosque being lost. You know, the masjid, which was a central place where the Prophet ﷺ taught from, you know, outside it in the Sufa, some of the companions would stay there and teach others who came. So it was an area of learning, you know, whereas today the mosque is just for ritual prayer. You go and you pray and you go. The Imam leads the prayer, that's his job, he's paid for that job, and he goes. So that sense of the mosque being the heart of the community where people come and be educated there, you know, and hold courses in there, I think that was somewhat lost. But I think in more recent times, some of the mosques have become, you know, Islamic centers. So they've included schools along with them now, and they are offering more and more courses. So I think there are some efforts being made today to get beyond that ritualistic use of the masjid.
The situation of the Muslims in the West is a little bit different because you have few masajid, and in order for you to travel half an hour or probably an hour in order to get this education would be more difficult than if you sit at home, relax, and get a program from Peace TV or another channel, and you're relaxing, you're saving this hour going and another hour coming back. It would be more effective than going to the masjid, especially if you live far from the masjid. This might not be the case in the Middle East because they have more masajid than you need to travel more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So I think people also, if we give them the options or the alternative, I think a lot of them would prefer to learn from the TV channel, especially if the programs are live, where when you have a question, you can either email the teacher or you can call him by phone and get the answer immediately from different places in the world. I think we expect TV channels to do something, inshallah, very promising in the near future.
But I still think that the best way of learning, if you can afford it, is to study under a teacher, a scholar, alim, especially if he is taqi, because you will not only learn from him, just acquire knowledge, but he will influence also your behavior. And I had an experience like this with some ulama. They used to explain some of the famous books like Al-Bukhari, and myself and someone else thought that the alim was not saying much. We could read what he said at home, and he was thinking of not coming. I told him no. The mere fact that we are staying in this halaqah, and I can see the effect on my heart. It is not like reading or studying by yourself at home. So this is still the ideal. Something else that must be emphasized is that the book is still, again, the means of knowledge. There are so many sayings in Arabic that if your sheikh is your book, then what is it?
Mistakes are many.
The mistakes are many, or your sheikh is the shaitan or so. But no one gets all the knowledge that he has from the sheikh. Everyone relies on books. So we must encourage also young people to read and to be patient and to read also what is called active or critical reading, to read and ask questions and say, why did the Sheikh author said this here, why did he said that there? And the ideal also would be that if there are any ulama, either in your country or in places, as you have just said, that you can email or write to and ask them questions, or on the radio. So if you can combine these, that will be the best thing.
In the last few years, I think the CDs played a great role in teaching a lot of people, especially nowadays when we commute for half an hour or an hour or more, and we need some material, and we have the time. And the invention of iPods and other machines made it very easy for everyone to put a lecture in his pocket and to listen to the whole lecture. Yes, there's not a lot of concentration when you are driving. I hope you don't make accidents, but I think it's a source of knowledge that's easier than the book. And I still remember one time you had this advice to Muslims and publishers to adopt the concept of books on tapes, so that we would have an opportunity to listen to the whole.
I'm still sorry that there are not many books
and I think
on
this
tape.
is a good project for businessmen, at least to make money of this project, but at the same time, the outcome would be, inshallah, wonderful.
Even Arabic language, if you listen to Arabic poetry, they say that Arabic poetry was meant to be recited, not to be read silently. So if this is recorded, then people, I'm sure that even people who are not very much educated will like it, and just as Arabic-speaking people. But still, some people tell me that still the cassette is more important for them than all the things that we said. One of our very good students in the American Open University was a Sudanese. He got some of the prizes and so on. And he told me that it takes him about, I think, an hour. Used to take him from home to work. And so during all this time, he just listens to the lectures of so he doesn't study or anything, just listens. And many people still think that the cassette is very important.
Well, I think the issue of the cassette or the CD, that's the issue of where you are in the world. See, because now in America, the cars have a CD player. That's like a standard.
I know.
In other parts of the world, it's not.
Even in many other places, yes.
But there, so now you find actually the cassettes are going out. CD is replacing it, without a doubt. But I mean, the point is that, using the media which is available, to record text, etc. I think this is weak in the Muslim area, because Muslims in general have not taken on the problem of the blind the way that the West have. See, because where did these books on tape come from? They came from originally for the blind people who couldn't read. So they record, you have whole libraries where books are all on tape. You see, that's where it started from. And then, I guess people listening to their family members, hey, that's a nice way, so they got into it. That's the origin of it.
I didn't know that was the origin.
Yeah, that's it. That's the origin for the blind. So because of the fact that in the Muslim world, unfortunately, or you could say the third world in general, facilities for the blind are still on a very low scale. They haven't really caught up with the West. The West has an advantage. They've been at it much longer. That, once that starts to develop, then you will start to see books being recorded.
And before the cassette, there was that, what do you call it? I saw someone...
Braille.
Yes.
Braille.
Reciting the Quran.
The Quran in Braille, yes. They have it,
One of our roles is to make knowledge accessible for people in different formats and different forms. This would make, I think, knowledge increase. And I think this is one of the reasons that you find, alhamdulillah, there's a growing interest among the Muslims in seeking knowledge in the last 20 or 30 years. And it's quite obvious. You can notice it in the West and in the East as well.
Also, you mentioned earlier on about businesses producing this material for profit, that sort of thing. But also, you've got the case of basically you'd have charitable organisations producing the material
Many organizations
for free distribution, which kind of is a good match for students, often on a low income.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Dr. Bilal Phillips, and you're watching Peace TV.
Behold the signs, knowledge lost.
The ilm will be lifted.
The moon split.
And the moon is being split in two halves.
Adultery widespread.
That adultery will be something that is common amongst people.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam no more.
Time that Rasulullah died, that incident was minor signs of the day of resurrection.
Nevertheless, all the prophesied minor signs will certainly herald the onset of the Qiyamah. Join Sayyid Raghi in the minor signs of Qiyamah today at 4 p.m. and repeat telecast at 2:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
I think also the explosion of Muslim international schools represents also a new trend in bringing together both sides of the knowledge, you know, whether we want to call it revealed knowledge and acquired knowledge. So we get away from the issues of secular and religious, right? Revealed being what we call religious, and acquired meaning what we call secular, because human beings have acquired it through experimentation, etc. But this combination of both, we're finding the need for it. Those who are involved in setting up Muslim schools, in general, they realize there's this need, you know, because as you set up a Muslim school, the idea of setting up a Muslim school is not just merely to provide a place where Muslims can get together, taught by Muslim teachers, and you have Islamic education on the curriculum more often than once a week, right? It's more than that. It's the idea is to bring an Islamic perspective to all aspects of education. So whether you're teaching English, whether you're teaching mathematics or whatever field, that the students should feel no separation between my Islamic studies period and my English period. There should be such a blend that the students see that all as being interrelated.
One aspect I think that's very beneficial that we noticed in the distance education schools, that the number of female students, women and girls, outnumber men learning, and this had great impact on the family. If any woman would take a course or two, it affects the whole family. It affects her husband, it affects her children, and this was a very good way to spread knowledge for Muslim women as well, especially those who are burdened with raising the kids and having other things to do, so they prefer to study at their own pace, at their home. It's a good opportunity for them, I think, to use.
In one of my visits to Britain, and I visited some universities there to persuade them to cooperate with us in our
American Open University.
And it happened that at that time, I read something by the government encouraging all universities to have distance learning to encourage. And they said that this is more democratic than the regular education. Why? Because many people, even people who cannot say, elderly people or people who are working cannot. Yes, and in our university, American
Open University,
we had, I think, the students many housewives and so on. So this kind of education, this means of education, really helps many people more than regular.
Very recently, I read something amazing that the MIT in Boston, they put 1,800 courses on the internet free.
1,800?
1,800 courses. Not only that, most of these courses had been translated into Chinese and Spanish language. And I think now this is a huge amount of knowledge for everybody to benefit from. Yes, it is a little bit specialized. However, it can be used by thousands, if not millions, of human beings by these courses. I wish that we Muslims would do something similar to this.
Or at least translate some of these courses.
But I'm saying these courses are to balance the Islamic course. If you have a background in Islamic knowledge, you need some of the other courses to keep the balance. And that's what I'm saying. So, but if we put some Islamic courses and make them available on the internet for free, a lot of people will benefit from that. And also, this opens the door for authenticity of some websites.
Definitely.
Well, I think we need to share this with the viewers or with the students of knowledge, and we tell them that this site authentic, most of what it has is authentic, so we don't let them go to the other websites that the material that's pushed there
is full of hatred.
Yes.
Actually, I did this on my website, bilalphillips.com.
Okay.
I had some brothers work on grading the websites, Islamic websites.
Okay.
So I gave them certain criteria in terms of the content, authenticity of content, the use of media, and so. So based on these, they're given grades, like out of 10, a 9 or an 8 or whatever. So and then what are the weaknesses in them if they've, as well as the deviant, some of the deviant sites, well known, but they're deviant, to identify them. So I have on my website is a grading.
I wish that
misleading titles like Sunnah or...
Yes, yeah.
So they use the word Sunnah or Ahl Sunnah in order to attract the audience to these websites. In fact, one of my assignments, I hope that my students would not listen to this show because they will go to a website and take the assignment from there. I give an assignment to my students that to evaluate 5 Islamic websites, and I give them the criteria that they would use. But this is an assignment, and they take grades for that, just to expose them to what is available on the internet. And this would encourage them definitely to go after them and study from there. You were talking about the goals from education, I think.
Well, yeah, actually, we really didn't look into it so far in our discussion, but it is important to identify, what are the goals. As we said, the comprehensive approach defines for us basically what those goals are, in that being comprehensive, it looks at or focuses on the development of the human being as a total human being. He lives in this world, and he is living for a world to come.
Yeah.
So therefore, the education should take into account both aspects of the human being, his physical needs, his spiritual needs, etc., and to make him the best member of society, a productive member of society, from all those perspectives.
In one of the talks that I gave during this conference here in the studio, I referred to something. I wish I had the book with me, but I didn't have the book. I read it a long time ago, a book by Aldous Huxley called The Perennial Philosophy, in which he quoted something that Charles Darwin, a letter that Charles Darwin wrote to one of his friends, complaining of the evil result that his concentration on one subject had on him. And he said, because as a result of this, he lost interest in religion. He could not appreciate poetry. And then Aldous Huxley went to say that this happens to everyone who specializes and confines himself to one subject like this that has no knowledge of God, you see. Yes. And he said that many people like this, taken to be very accomplished, very respected in society, but he said when it comes to knowing God and dealing with human being, one of them is no more than a fetus. So we must also remind our viewers, especially students, it is important to specialize. We need specialists, but we should not confine ourselves completely to our subject of specialization.
I think in the West, as I know in America anyway, the introduction of what they call liberal arts.
No,
You know,
this
that
was
every
because of-
student has to take and has to be exposed to these other areas, regardless of what your specialization is.
Do you know why they did this? I remember when I was very young, I read about that. Because people who specialize used to be easy targets of communism. They don't know much about the world, so communists comes to them and tells them that Marx is a scientific, scientific, what do they call it?
Scientific socialism.
Scientific socialism and so on. And he's a scientist, so he will be easily persuaded. Here is something that is economic, but at the same time scientific and so on. That's why they introduced these liberal art.
Regarding talking about university and liberal exposure, do you think it's pretty crucial for the safety of the student brothers and sisters out there to have a good grounding in their Islamic values and practice before they actually go to university? Because I mean, it can be very controversial where maybe a lot of these girls and boys that are going there, young adults are going there, and for the first time they have a sense of freedom.
I would say both things should go hand in hand. The home or the house would do the first step by teaching the simple issues in Islam, and then it grows after that. They take the main fundamentals and the main practices. And I think by the time when they are in the university, they should have some courses in Islam at the same time while they are studying in the university. Otherwise, they would become victims as those who were victims to scientific socialism.
I was thinking more in terms of their conduct and behaviour, maybe going in very much of an environment of other influences, non-Islamic influences around them.
There's no doubt. I think in general, I mean, when people ask me, for example, should they send their children out of Muslim countries into non-Muslim countries to go and study, you know, I usually advise them with regards to the children themselves. You know, what is their state? You know, if they are people who are conscious of their religion, conscious of their responsibilities to Allah and to educating, and they have, you know, some sense of maturity, then going into these institutions, it's possible if there is a need. But, you know, if they're unprepared, they're already weak and shaky, you know, to put them into those circumstances is really to seal their destruction,
And
you
I
know,
have found from
religiously.
experience that what are called social sciences or liberal freedom have a worse effect on a Muslim than the science.
Yeah, the pure sciences, yeah.
Yes.
Because
this includes a lot of philosophy,
Yeah.
and
Theories.
Yeah,
Yep.
psychology, these type of courses, yeah.
Some people are worried that some people who know about their religion are worried to then go and study science, thinking that science is going to disprove it, whereas in fact, as you and myself know reasonably well.
You can destroy other religions.
Exactly. But I mean, religion in Islam is a match like this.
No.
One benefit that I found of having Islamic material available on the internet and accessible to everyone, I found not only the Muslims who benefit from it, non-Muslims as well. They take advantage of this, and there's more exposure to them to this great religion, and I think it benefits them a lot.
Okay, I think that wraps up our session. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Jazakallah, and assalamu alaikum.